Your Honor, we were just sent a second report and I haven't had an opportunity to even look at it. It just came across.
Okay. We'll take a few more minutes. Everybody take a look. It's 2:04. I think, will 2:10 give you enough time to review it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes, Senator, that's plenty.
You were questioning Ms. Hernandez about a report. Everybody has had the opportunity to review either one or two reports, I believe. And you were asking to refresh her recollection with the writing been provided to the other parties. So please proceed.
May I share, Your Honor, with Ms. Hernandez to refresh your recollection, the report?
No, Your Honor, it's a hearsay statement.
It's a writing used to refresh her recollection. If you put it on the screen, then you're essentially admitting it into evidence.
I can send it to her for review, Your Honor. She has it in front of her. You know, she has her file. This is part of her file.
Well, my understanding is that we just spent 20 minutes so that everybody could review what you wanted her to read.
I sent it, right, but I don't believe Ms. Hernandez sent her email address. It was only the attorneys.
Judge, you've been back at least once since you gave that instruction. I mean, you could have asked.
Well, again, Your Honor, I did not know that she wasn't just going to. She had it in front of her. But again,
if she has the document in front of her that you just sent to everybody else, and that's what you're using to refresh her recollection, there's no reason that I need to put it up on the screen. Correct? It's just like we're in a courtroom where everybody's able to see what she has sitting in front of her, but it's not going to come into evidence.
Correct, Your Honor. I understand that. The issue is Ms. Hernandez. I can ask some other questions, Your Honor. Ms. Hernandez, have you reviewed the June report from the domestic violence?
Yes, I have.
And was there progress made when Grace was participating in the program?
Your Honor, and I'm going to object to hearsay.
Rephrase your question, Mr. Wong. Sustained.
Based on your review of the report from June, was Grace showing signs of resistance to the group meetings?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained. I think what you're going to have to ask her, Mr. Wong, are opinions in her work as the caseworker on this case, not factual things that will elicit hearsay. This document was only provided to her, and we've only reviewed it to refresh her recollection of what she knows.
So, in your opinion, Ms. Hernandez, from reviewing the June records from domestic violence, was Grace participating in the group sessions?
Objection, hearsay.
Why don't you just ask her if she was participating? She was the caseworker. Why do we even? And it's a fact. She either knows the fact or she doesn't.
Was she participating, Ms. Hernandez? Was Grace participating in the domestic violence classes in June?
Yes, she was.
And was she still showing signs of resistance in the group sessions?
No, not on that. That's not listed on that progress report.
And so would that was a change from May to June, correct?
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
Rephrase, sustained.
Was that different than the May classes?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
In your opinion, was there progress made between May and June?
Your Honor, that calls for speculation on her part. She's not a provider for domestic violence. It calls for speculation.
I think the issue that we have right now, Mr. Wong, is that although Ms. Hernandez is a custodian of these records, I feel as if you're trying to elicit information from her that would be more appropriate from another sponsoring witness. And that's why I think you're running into so many objections here. And I don't know that we're going to get there this way. It's almost as if we've left the realm of what facts and direct knowledge she has and how she can interpret the records based on her job and her role as a custodian. And we're asking her to make inferences and draw conclusions that she's not quite qualified to draw. So I don't know that we're going to get there this way. I think we're just going to run into more objections that I'm going to have to sustain.
Based on your review of the records, how was Grace performing in the domestic violence classes in June?
Objection, hearsay.
No, I'll allow that. I'll allow that. That's general enough. Overruled.
The progress report reported that she was engaged in June.
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
Here we are again. I mean, I just think we're not going to get around this, Mr. Wong.
And then how was Grace in July in the domestic violence classes?
Objection, Your Honor. It's hearsay and no personal knowledge.
You're going to have to ask it a different way, Mr. Wong, or get it somewhere, some other way. It's the same. We're running into the same issue over and over and over again.
So when you had issues with Grace and our participation in the group sessions in May, why were there no further communications with CPS about her performance in June and July?
Objection, compound question.
Sustained.
Were there any other meetings about increasing Grace's visits in June?
No, there weren't.
Sorry,
There
there were
were.
not.
There were or were not.
I'm sorry. In June, when the case transferred to me, yes, that was when we had that discussion.
And then were there any discussions in July?
No, there were not.
Were there any discussions in August?
No, there weren't.
Why not?
We were waiting on information from the providers and from her individual therapist.
What information were you waiting on?
Her progress notes.
And when were those progress notes received?
We have not received the domestic violence progress note for August, and we received the therapy notes in August.
So is that an issue that would be remedied by Grace or by the providers?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I'm not understanding the question.
Who provides the reports to CPS so y'all can review them? The providers or does Grace?
The providers.
And so it was not because Grace was resistant to giving documentation.
No, I haven't received documentation from Grace.
Was documentation requested from Grace that you're still waiting on?
No.
And so is there any harm in having that meeting about expanding Grace's visitation now that you have those notes?
Objection, Your Honor. We're here for trial. This question is completely irrelevant.
Sustained.
Would those notes have been helpful for you to have them to review prior to today?
Again, Your Honor, I'd object. We're here for trial. We're here for a termination trial. And it's a little late for Mr. Wong to be proposing meetings when the testimony was that he did not allow his client to meet with the caseworker, only if he was present.
Sustained. we've got a relevancy issue here. We need to just focus the issues on whether or not the department is meeting their burden to prove the grounds they're trying to prove, and your defense of that. We can't get into what we might be able to do. This is trial.
And so, Kimberly, you mentioned that Grace was progressing with the services while you were on the case, correct?
Yes.
And was there any indication given to you that she would not continue to progress with the services?
That calls for speculation on her part.
And hearsay statement by somebody else.
Sustained.
In your opinion, was Grace progressing forwards with the case through services?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
Through your review of the counseling notes, was Grace not attending any counseling sessions since you've been on the case?
Asked and answered, Your Honor. We've already gone through how often she went to counseling and BIP, or not BIP, domestic violence.
Sustained. We need to move on to something else, Mr. Wong. I'm very well familiar of where we are as far as the disagreement on her engagement in her services to this point with these particular subjects.
When you visited with Grace at her residence, Ms. Hernandez, was that Grace's residence or was it someone else's?
It was Grace's residence.
And did she live with anyone or she lived alone?
I believe she lived with Mr. Joe Mercado.
Are you aware that Mr. Mercado has a separate residence?
No, I'm not.
Was Mr. Mercado asked by the department to be at that visit?
Yes.
Why was that?
So we could meet him.
And at that point, did Grace confirm that Mr. Mercado lived there?
That was my understanding, yes.
How did you come to that understanding?
I believe she mentioned that when we were there.
And since you've been on the case, how have Grace's visits been with Paisley?
Since I've been on the case, there was about, I believe it's a month of missed visits at the end of June and throughout July. And then 2 of those visits were due, one was due to Paisley being sick, and one was due to being the 4th of July week and the Children's Matter office was closed. I added that hour on to another visit initially, and I received feedback that Paisley was very disassociated after that visit with mom. And we've gone back to those 1-hour visits each week. And I haven't received any word about that since.
And were there any other issues with the visits with Paisley?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So I know you said she missed a month of visits, but 2 of them were, I guess, not Grace's, related to something Grace brought up?
Correct.
And then Scarlett, what's the current status with Scarlett's therapy?
She is engaged in therapy.
And was there any change with the therapist, including Grace, in sessions?
Not with her current therapist in New York, no.
Is there a reason?
We haven't received that recommendation from that therapist.
And who is that therapist? Is that Dr. Yates?
No, Dr. Yates is here in Texas.
Okay. When did the New York therapist begin?
I believe Scarlett had intake appointments. I want to say at the end of May or in June. I'm not for sure on the exact date.
Do you know how many sessions of therapy Scarlett has had with the New York therapist?
No, I don't.
Are you aware if Scarlett wants to have a relationship with her mother?
I'm not aware.
I'll pass.
Mr. Salvador?
Yes, for the record, how long has Scarlett been with her father?
Since March of this year?
Okay, and you've been able to meet with Scarlett and my client?
Yes, I have.
Okay, any concerns there?
No, there's no concerns.
Okay, do you believe Mr. Roscoe is meeting all of her needs at this time?
Yes, I do.
Is Scarlett receiving any therapy at this time?
Yes, she is.
And to your knowledge, what is she addressing in therapy with her therapist?
I have not received therapy notes from her therapist in New York.
Okay, have you tried to call the therapist to see what they're working through?
Yes, I've called and I've left her voicemails, but I have not received information back from her.
Okay, and are you familiar with some of the issues and concerns that Scarlett has?
Yes.
Okay, and what has she told you about the abuse that she was subjected to by Ms. Benz?
Scarlett has not shared any of that with me.
Okay, to your knowledge, has she shared that with anyone else at the department or belong?
I believe with the previous caseworker.
Okay, and that would be with Ms. Schoaf, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and since taking over this case, has Mr. Roscoe completed all of his services?
Yes, he has. I
Okay,
believe he's still engaged in therapy with Dr. Yates.
Okay. And have you talked to Ms. Yates about Mr. Roscoe's progress?
Yes, I have.
Are there any concerns at this time with therapy?
No, there aren't.
Okay, do you believe it's in Scarlett's best interest to continue placement with her father?
Yes, I do.
And why do you believe that?
Scarlett's in a safe home environment. When I visited, she seems very happy, very bonded with Mr. Roscoe, and she's receiving the services that she needs.
Okay. And as a part of this taking over this case, do you review the file?
Yes.
Okay. And do you review the prior history of each parent prior to taking over a case?
Yes.
And why do you do that?
To be able to assess protective capabilities and what's happened in the case thus far.
Okay, does that also help you make recommendations regarding services?
Yes.
Okay, and is that information important to providers when going through therapy or classes recommended by the department?
Yes.
Okay, did you review Ms. Benz's history?
Yes.
Okay, and from reviewing Ms. Benz's history prior to this case, did she have any involvement with the department?
Yes, she did.
Okay, and what was that involvement?
I know there was I'm sorry, I don't have the dates or the years, but Miss Benz has a child who there was a previous investigation with.
Okay, do you remember why there was an investigation regarding that child?
Yes, there were unexplained, I believe, skull fractures. There was broken bones.
Okay, so while that child was in Miss Benz's care, there was injury to a child. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you remember the outcome of that investigation?
Yes, I believe it was a reason to believe.
Okay, a reason to believe, do you know exactly what the finding was?
I do not know.
Okay, but was it related to physical abuse of that other child?
Yes.
Okay, and to your knowledge, is Miss Benz, does she have any custody, care, or control of that other child?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay, and after that, was there any other CPS involvement?
Not that I'm remembering, aside from this case.
Okay, prior to this legal removal, do you remember if the parents were engaged in any services, family-based or voluntary services?
Yes, Grace Benz and Miles Benz had a family-based case.
Okay, and do you remember what started that family-based case before this legal case?
I do not know.
Okay. Do you believe that had something to do with also physical violence between Ms. Benz and Mr. Benz?
My understanding, yes, is that it's been ongoing domestic violence.
Okay. And after reviewing the file, do you believe that they successfully completed the family-based services?
Yes, that case was closed out.
Okay. Do you remember around what date that was closed out before this legal case?
I believe it was a month before this legal case opened.
Okay. So just to recollect, there was a family-based case where Ms. Benz successfully completed it, and the issue and concerns were domestic violence. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then a month later, we had this legal removal. Is that correct?
Yes.
And do you recall why this legal removal was done?
Yes, I do.
And why was that?
Because there was continued domestic violence and concerns regarding mental health.
Okay. So far, the history that we have for Ms. Benz is that we had a child with a fractured rib and a skull fracture. Then we had a family-based case prior to this case for domestic violence. And now we have a third involvement with CPS regarding domestic violence. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you recall that her involvement with the department backdates to 2014?
I'm not certain on the date.
Okay.
But yes.
But does that sound familiar to you?
Yes.
Okay. And so we're about almost a year into this case. Has Ms. Benz completed her services?
No, she hasn't.
What has she actually completed in the year that this court has given her to complete services to reunify with her children?
She has completed a parenting class.
Okay. Do you believe that just completing a parenting class is sufficient to overcome domestic violence concerns that have been happening since 2014?
No.
And do you believe that creates a continuing danger for the children?
Yes.
And how does that create a continuing danger?
The issues of why we were involved in this case haven't been resolved.
Okay. And you stated that Scarlett herself has made some outcries to the prior worker. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you ever review the notes of the prior worker?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the outcries were to Ms. Schoaf?
I believe it was being choked or attempted drowning by Ms. Benz.
Okay. So just to be clear, so Scarlett had outcried to Ms. Schoaf that at some point Ms. Benz had choked her physically and tried to physically drown her. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that was a report made to Ms. Schoaf.
Okay. And do you believe that she's addressed those concerns in the services that she's completed?
No, I do not.
Okay. And after this case started, there was reports that Ms. Benz continued to engage in domestic violence with Mr. Benz. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes, there was reports made to the department, or the department became aware that there was domestic violence ongoing between Ms. Benz and Mr. Benz during the pendency of this case. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Is that concerning?
Yes, it is.
And why is that concerning?
Because it's the reason why we're involved with this family.
Okay. And so Mr. Wong had sent those reports. You were able to review those reports?
Yes.
And those reports were from June and July, correct?
Correct.
So that was only about a month and a half ago. Do you believe that was enough progress in that service to warrant a reunification with her child?
No.
Would you agree that there was still concerns in June that she was not, she was resistant towards the program? Is that correct?
Yes, I received that from May.
Okay. And that's almost 9 months into this case, and she's still resistant to the domestic violence services. Is that correct?
Correct.
Does that cause a concern?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And how many children does Ms. Benz have? Do you know?
I believe 5.
5. Okay. And to your knowledge, does she have any custody, care, control of any of those children?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. And at the beginning of this case, there was mention of mental health issues with mom. Do you believe that she's actively engaged in controlling or managing those mental health issues?
I have not received any notes regarding her psychiatric care.
Okay. And so do you know where she's receiving her psychiatric care?
No, I do not.
Is that a conversation that you've had with Ms. Benz?
I know that she mentioned that she's been seeing the same psychiatrist for some years now. I don't know who the provider is.
Okay. Was it did Belong ever ask her to provide any updated notes on that?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the outcome of that?
I believe we have a psychiatric note from June of this year, but it doesn't state what medications she's on.
Okay, so Belong received notes, but it wasn't sufficient to address whether she's actually meeting her mental health needs. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is the department asking regarding Scarlett, is the department asking to terminate Ms. Bence's parental rights?
Yes.
And why are you asking that?
I believe it's in the best interest for Scarlett to remain in the home with her father, and don't believe that Ms. Bence has made sufficient progress in this legal case.
Okay. And what is the visitation schedule right now with Scarlett and Ms. Bence?
There are no visits.
And why is that?
At the last court hearing, visits were suspended, I believe due to a conversation that Scarlett had with the previous caseworker. Okay.
And to your knowledge, and after reviewing your file, what was the reason Scarlett requested that?
She felt like her mom hated her, and she felt uncomfortable whenever her mom had said that she was going to tell Katie that she was making her look bad.
Okay. And to your knowledge, has Scarlett tried to reach out to mom in any way?
Yes, Mr. Roscoe did let me know about Scarlett attempting to reach her mom on TikTok.
Okay. And when was that?
And that was this past month.
Okay, so that would have been in August of this month, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did Ms. Bence in any way reach out to you and let you know that Scarlett was trying to communicate with her?
No, not until this past week during my home visit, but she had not reached out prior.
Okay. And so how long had Ms. Bence known that Scarlett reached out to her until she addressed that with you?
I believe it was I want to say a couple of weeks. I'm not for certain, but about a couple of weeks, a week and a half.
Okay. And when you discussed that with Ms. Bence, what did she say about the communication?
She stated that she wasn't going to deny speaking with her daughter, but I don't believe that she had said that she had reached back out to her. It was just a message that her daughter had sent her on TikTok.
Okay. Was it concerning to Belong that Ms. Bence had not shared that information with you when Scarlett reached out to her?
Yes.
And why is that concerning?
Because that was a part of the court order was no contact, no visitation at this time until Scarlett's been able to work through her trauma and therapy and have a recommendation from a therapist for that contact.
And as of today, do you have a recommendation from her therapist saying that communication with Ms. Bence is appropriate?
No, I do not.
Pass the witness, Judge.
Just one moment. I'm gonna get it back into that screen. While I'm looking for that, Ms. Hernandez, do you have placement date information in front of you?
I can pull that up.
Well, you don't have to pull it up right now. I'm gonna let Ms. Pearsall ask you some questions, but before we adjourn today, I want to double check that my placement dates in this system are correct, okay?
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Pearsall.
Thank you, Honor. Mr. Hernandez, has Mr. Roscoe been a victim of domestic violence from Grace?
Not to my knowledge, I have not received that.
Have you ever discussed that issue with Mr. Roscoe?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so you don't know if he has or hasn't been a victim of domestic violence?
No, I don't.
Okay. Are you aware that Mr. Bence has been a victim of domestic violence from Grace?
Yes.
On multiple occasions?
Yes.
And Scarlett has disclosed that she has been a victim of domestic violence from Grace, correct?
Correct.
And you've already testified that Grace has 5 children total as of right now.
Yes.
Okay. And are all except one of them, Paisley, verbal?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So the 4 children that are verbal, at one point or another, have each one of those 4 children outcried that they've been physically or mentally or both abused by Grace?
No, I'm not certain.
Okay. Now, this case started in part due to Grace being arrested, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that was that vehicle incident you testified about earlier?
Yes.
And during that vehicle incident, when Grace attempted to steer the vehicle into a commercial truck, was she arrested and charged with 4 counts of child endangerment?
Yes.
And was Grace Benz also charged with 1 count of deadly conduct?
Yes.
And she made an allegation at that point that Miles Benz hit her, but he wasn't arrested or charged with anything from that incident, was he?
I'm not sure.
Okay. You don't know if anything he was charged with, correct?
I don't know.
Okay, so when the police came and investigated the events, they only arrested Grace and charged her with different crimes you just testified to, correct?
Yes, and based on the affidavit of removal, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, can I share a screen for a document that's previously been admitted in evidence petitioners for?
Yes.
Thank you. Need me to make it bigger. I'm sharing with you Petitioner's Exhibit 4, which is Miles Benz service plan. Did Mr. Benz sign his service plan?
Yes, I believe electronically.
Okay. So let's go over his services. Let me scroll to the beginning. Okay. So his first service plan was a parenting class. Is that correct?
Yes.
Sorry, hold on. Okay. Parenting class. Did he complete that?
Yes, he did.
Did he provide you with a certificate?
I believe he provided, yes, the previous worker with the certificate.
And you are currently the custodian of record for that certificate, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And has he been able to demonstrate to you what he has learned in parenting through his interaction with his daughter?
Yes.
And what kind of visitation does he currently have?
He has 3 hours. He had been having 3 hours unsupervised, and they've moved to a full day unsupervised as of last week.
Okay, so he's currently having all day unsupervised visits.
Correct.
And those go well?
Yes.
Is Paisley bonded to her dad?
Yes, she appears bonded to him.
Okay, does dad seem to be appropriately able to meet all of her needs?
Yes.
Okay, I believe the next concern was Mr. Benz establishing a social support system of appropriate friends, family, and professionals. As of today, has he been able to accomplish that?
Yes, he's identified his support system.
Okay, and is it appropriate?
Yes.
Okay, so you believe he's complied with that part of his service plan?
Yes.
Okay. His next task was an anger management class, correct?
Correct.
And has he been attending that?
Yes, he has.
Now, a typical anger management class is a certain number of classes that you attend, and then you get a certificate, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Benz chose to see a therapist or a psychiatrist by the name of Dr. DeFranco.
Yes.
And so he has continued that service actually since before this even got created, the service plan, until today.
Correct.
And this is a service he plans to continue regardless of whether this case is in effect or not.
Yes.
So at this point, you believe he has accomplished this goal and in fact probably over-accomplished?
Yes.
Okay. So you're satisfied that he has dealt with whatever anger management issues he had, and you believe he's continuing to deal with them in a very appropriate manner?
Yes, with that ongoing, yes.
Okay. Okay, he was asked to submit to random drug tests to address any possible concerns. Has he done that?
Yes, he has.
And there's been no drug concerns in this case as far as Mr. Benz, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. He was asked to complete a psychological evaluation.
Yes.
And has he completed that?
Yes, he has.
and there's been no additional services recommended outside of what's already in his service plan. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay. He was asked to complete domestic violence. Has he done that?
Yes, he has.
Okay. And that's been finished, certificate has been provided, and you have no ongoing concerns.
That's correct.
Okay. And is that the entirety of his service plan?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'm sure now that I've scrolled through the whole plan. So sitting here today, do you believe Mr. Benz has completed every single task asked on his service plan?
Yes.
Okay, now service plans are divided into two things. They're divided into tasks and goals. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, can you explain to us what is the difference between those two?
Yes, that we have goals that we would like for Mr. Benz to be able to accomplish, and the tasks are what help him get there. They're services that help him work through the reason why we're involved.
Okay, so you've already testified that Mr. Benz completed all the tasks. Has he accomplished all of the goals set out by the service plan?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes, in addition to finishing all the tasks, which you testified, we've gone through them one by one, he's completed those. Has he also accomplished the goals on his service plan?
Yes.
And when these cases start out, the department's initial goal in every case is family reunification, correct?
Correct.
And has the department worked in this case with all three parents to attempt to reunify their respective children with that parent?
Yes.
Okay. And based on the work you've accomplished, you and your predecessors and all of the providers have accomplished throughout this case, which you're recommending today is reunification with Mr. Roscoe of his child, correct?
It would be based off of a reunification staffing that I would have with my supervisor. We have not had that yet. It has been scheduled.
Okay, let me try my question again. Which you're recommending is a reunification with Mr. Roscoe and his child.
Yes,
correct?
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. I thought you meant Mr. Benz. Yes, correct.
Okay, and with Mr. Ben, subject to the reunification staffing, which is scheduled next Tuesday, I believe, correct?
Yeah, on the 5th, yes.
On the 5th, okay. You will also be seeking reunification with Mr. Benz, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But with the mother, you seeking termination of parental rights as to both of those children.
Correct.
Okay. So let me switch. Your Honor, and I'm again seeking permission to share my screen.
Okay.
And so if you look at Exhibit 2, page 9, is this Grace Benz's signature on her service plan?
Yes.
Okay. And what day did she sign this plan?
November 9th, 23.
Okay. So give or take, I can't do math that well, 9-10 months ago?
Yes.
Okay. And it would be around the same date that Mr. Benz signed his plan. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And so they both had an equal amount of time to complete all of the tasks and accomplish all of the goals on their service plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you already testified that while Mr. Benz has accomplished it, she has not.
Correct.
Okay. Can you read for the court, and I can make it bigger if that helps you? What was the danger worry statement for that sort of started this service plan?
Yes, it says SJRC Belong understands that Grace Benz loves Scarlett and Paisley and wants to be reunified with her children. However, there's a significant concern regarding domestic violence, to include verbal and physical abuse, between Grace and Miles Benz. There have also been reports of mental breakdowns which have resulted in violence and erratic behavior. SJRC Belong is worried that without appropriate intervention and a significant change in these behaviors, Scarlett and Paisley could become hurt, scared, seriously injured, or even killed.
Okay. Would you agree with me that the concern that a child could be killed is a very unusual concern, even for cases involving the department.
Yes.
Okay. And concentrating on Grace, because, you know, you've testified at length about Mr. Benz. The erratic behavior that was concerning when this case started on Grace's part, has that erratic behavior continued to today?
Yes, I believe there have been continued violence between Mr. and Mrs. Benz.
Okay, but has the erratic behavior also continued between Ms. Benz and the department workers, between her and the children, between her and just multiple other people?
I have not witnessed that personally.
Have you seen that in the reports you reviewed as a custodian of record for this case?
I believe yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So going through her tasks, she was asked to complete a parenting class, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And has she completed the parenting class?
Yes, she has.
And that was the task, correct?
Correct.
What date did Ms. Benz complete the parenting class?
It was prior to me receiving the case. I don't have the date.
Okay. Now, what is the goal of completing the parenting class?
I'm sorry.
What's the goal?
The goal?
Why does the department ask parents to complete a parenting class?
To be able to gain, basic knowledge and to be able to parent their children, be able to be a nurturing parent, to learn.
Sorry, okay, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that was it.
Okay. And so based on Grace's behavior with Paisley, in which she blamed the child and made the child feel like she hates her, do you believe that she has learned and accomplished the goals needed from this parenting class?
Objection, Your Honor. It's mischaracterization of evidence.
Your Honor, I think Miss Pearsall is referring to Scarlett.
Oh, I am referring to Scarlett, Judge. I apologize.
Okay. I wanted the same thing myself. Overruled. You can answer it.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Based on Grace's behavior with Scarlett, where she threatened the child and just made her feel terrible about herself, I do believe Grace has accomplished the goal of this parenting class, or do you believe she has failed to accomplish those goals?
Objection, Your Honor. Again, she's mischaracterizing the evidence, incendiating her comments, sidebars being added, saying that she's threatened child.
Your Honor, I believe there was testimony to that.
There was testimony. Overruled. That's in evidence.
No, I don't believe that she's accomplished the goal of parenting classes.
Okay, the next task was for Ms. Grace to show that she has an appropriate support system, correct?
Correct.
Has Ms. Benz been able to prove to you that she has a support system as of today?
No, I'm unaware of Miss Benz's support system.
Okay, and that was a required task on her plan, so she hasn't accomplished that task or that goal, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, let's talk about, sorry, I was looking for his name, Mr. McCardo for a minute. Who is Mr. McCardo to Grace?
I believe that is her boyfriend.
Okay. And she is currently pregnant with her 6th child?
Yes, ma'am.
And is Mr. McCardo the father, allegedly at least the father of the 6th child?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so she hasn't disclosed to you who is the father of this child?
Not to me, no.
Okay. Do you know how pregnant Grace is? Like how many months?
I believe she said she's 15 weeks.
So about 4 months, give or take?
Yes.
Okay. And when did she disclose to the department that her and Mr. McCarter were dating?
I'm unsure of when that was told to, I don't know if that was told to the previous worker
Okay. When was it told to you?
during my home visit last week. Or I believe maybe that was discussed in mediation as well.
Okay, so maybe a couple of weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay, so the department found out that this man exists a couple of weeks ago.
That's when I did, yes.
Okay. Has he provided or has Grace provided Mr. McCarter's information so you could do a background check to figure out whether or not he's appropriate to be around any of the children?
No, not yet.
Is that the concern?
Yes, and I did not ask for that information during my home visit last week.
Okay, why is it a concern though that you don't know that information?
Because we do not know if he has any CPS history or criminal history.
Now, during your home visit last week, did you meet Mr. McCarter?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you observe, like you personally saw him, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you observe that he had a gun on him the entire time you were visiting?
I believe it appeared that he had a gun on him, yes.
Okay. Is that cause you any concern?
It was not concerning, it's not something that was an issue during the visit.
Okay, but when you combine a boyfriend we know nothing about with a gun and history of violent, erratic behavior from Grace, is that combination concerned?
Yes.
Why?
We wouldn't know what could happen.
Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing Grace's service plan. Okay, what is the next concern on the plan?
Grace Spence has displayed sporadic and aggressive behavior.
And she was asked to do, I believe, random drug tests.
Yes.
Okay. And has she submitted to random drug tests?
Yes, she has.
Okay. And the only concerns on those drug tests were allegedly her prescription medication.
Yes.
Okay. Is it true that the department has been provided some, but not all of her prescriptions throughout the case?
I'm not sure what's provided prior to me getting on the case, but I have not received her I haven't received her prescriptions.
Okay, so since, I'm sorry, when did you get on the case, June?
Yes, mid-June.
Okay, so since June until today, August 27th, you haven't received any verification of what she is or isn't taking.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Her next task, I'm sorry, I think I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. Okay, her next task, I believe, was a psychological, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and she did complete that?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Have you had a chance to review her psychological as custodian of the records for this case?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And in her psychological, did Grace admit that she has a history of suffering with bipolar issues?
I'm sorry, I don't recall if that was her psychological or her psychiatric evaluation.
But you recall that in one of those she admitted to suffering is bipolar issues?
Yes.
Do you recall that she also admitted that she has a history of overusing Adderall?
I do not recall that, no.
Okay. Is that something you have a copy of her psychological evaluation, correct, in your records?
Yes,
that
I
something
do.
you can pull up and refresh your memory with?
Yes. I can pull that up. Okay, no, I do not see. I have her evaluation pulled up.
Okay, can you look at the very first paragraph, which starts, I'm sorry, second paragraph, which starts with history of presenting problems?
Yes.
And so in it, is there a concern that Grace is on Adderall but is overusing it?
Yes. That was on the basis, the affidavit of removal.
Okay, so that was one of the concerns when this case began.
Yes.
Okay, and you would agree with me when you get a positive drug test and it's explained allegedly with an Adderall prescription, there is no way to truly measure whether it's use or overuse.
I wouldn't be able to tell that, no.
Okay. So if in fact that was one of the many concerns that started this case, this is a concern that in no way has been dealt with throughout this case either. Would you agree?
Yes, we are. I'm unaware of what prescriptions. I haven't been able to verify what prescriptions Ms. Benz is currently taking.
Okay. Now, was it also disclosed in her psychological that Ms. Benz has been previously emergency detained?
Yes.
Okay. And you will agree with me that requires a very high level of mental health behavior in order to be emergency detained by law enforcement.
Yes.
And is that a concern?
Yes.
Out of the 5 children that she has, they range in age, I believe, between, well, 1 year old and 11 years old. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And you've already testified that Ms. Ben's CPS history started 11 years ago with the birth of her oldest child, Lee. Accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Because her oldest child was the one where she was found validated for physical abuse of after that child suffered a fractured skull and multiple broken bones.
Yes.
Okay. And so every one of the children she has given birth to in the last 11 years, she does not have custody of. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And do you believe, based on her history and based on her concerning behavior over the past 11 years, terminating her parental rights is the only way to ensure Paisley's and Scarlett's safety today and in the future?
Yes, ma'am.
In addition to the car incident, does Grace have criminal history of assaults causing bodily injury?
Yes.
And does she also have 4 separate counts of injury to a family member?
I would have to pull up her criminal history. I'm sorry. I don't recall.
Okay, well, if it helps, you can flip to page 3 of her psychological and look on the legal history. That helps you refresh your memory.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Did her psychological make recommendations?
Yes, it did. Let me see.
Okay. And so what was recommended by her psychological?
The recommendations say that she appears guarded and lacks insight and tends to underreport symptoms. She
Okay,
would
what was the second recommendation?
she would benefit from continued medication management to manage her reported symptoms of depression.
Okay, and what was the third recommendation?
If the above factors are not addressed, I believe that it is very likely Grace will continue to have problems providing a safe, stable home for her children and will again encounter DFPS again for future complaints.
So first recommendation was psychotherapy, second was medication management, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And she did go to counseling,
Yes.
and her counselor hasn't discharged her and believes she still needs ongoing therapy for at least 3 months.
Yes, she has not been discharged.
So that task and that goal has not been accomplished. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Her medication management, you have no idea what's happening because she has failed to provide you with any proof of it the entire time you've been the worker. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so the concerns that Dr. Ebony Jackson, the PhD who completed the psychological had that you just testified to, of her continuing to have problems providing safe, stable home for her children, and again, committing acts that would involve department, that concern is just as alive today as it was when this case started and when the psychological was done. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay. Now I'm going to go back to sharing Exhibit 2. And this is the last requirement on her service plan. And is that the domestic violence class?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to talk about that for a minute. Now, you already testified that she signed the service plan on November 9th of 23. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how many sessions of domestic violence total?
24.
And she didn't start this class until sometime in April, end of April of 2024.
Yes.
So why did it take her 6 months, so almost 6 months, to start her domestic violence class?
It's my understanding that she had told the previous worker that she was not a perpetrator, so is not going to take a perpetrator's course.
So she refused to participate in this class for the first 5-6 months of the case.
Yes.
And so the reason, one of the reasons she's not done with this class is she chose not to comply with the order of this court to do her services, and she chose not to attend this class for 5-6 months.
Correct.
And even after starting this class, are you aware that she has missed 2 separate sessions?
Yes.
Okay. Sitting here today, do you believe it wouldn't just be in the children's best interest, but to go back to what you write into the record on the service plan, it would prevent physical harm and potentially death to both Scarlett and Paisley, only if Grace Bence's rights are terminated?
Correct.
And is that what you're seeking today?
Yes.
Okay. Now other questions here.
Ms. Fuller?
Your Honor, could I take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Thank
Let's go back over on 321 testimony, and just for the record and for everybody's preparation, we're gonna recess at 4:15 today. And we'll come back on, I believe, the 16th. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, you can continue.
Ms. Hernandez, how long have you been a caseworker with Belong?
Since I started with Belong last year as a kinship worker, and I've been a permanency specialist since March.
And did you have, we've had a lot of discussions in regards to criminal charges and criminal cases. Have you had an opportunity to review the removal affidavit?
Yes.
And on page 2 of that affidavit, Mrs. Bentz's criminal history was 3 prior arrests for assault causing bodily injury, correct?
Yes.
And she actually completed 12 months probation.
Yes.
So the domestic violence issues have been ongoing for many years.
Correct.
So it's not just with Mr. Bentz. It has been with other paramours, other young men that she's been with.
Correct.
And you said that they completed the family-based safety services in July of 2023, correct?
Yes.
And as Ms. Pearsall stated, each parent is given a number of tasks,
Yes.
but the goals they have to complete are different than the task itself.
Yes.
And so based on the family-based case that Mr. and Mrs. Bentz completed, do you feel that they actually learned anything from that case?
No, since just a couple months later, we're here for a legal case for those same.
In the main incident on that new removal, Miss Bentz threatened to kill herself and all the children by going into oncoming traffic, correct?
Yes.
And how many children were in the car?
I believe it was the 3 older children.
So Scarlett
Yes.
and her 2 half siblings with Mr. Nesloney?
I believe so. I would have to double check.
Okay. And in your opinion, after meeting Scarlett, do you feel that that situation had a traumatic effect on her?
Yes.
And she can vividly recall that incident.
Yes, she can.
And has she, in fact, mentioned it to more than one individual?
Yes.
To teachers, to counselors, to caseworkers. She talks about it consistently.
Yes, she has.
And in her statements to individuals, she also says that wasn't the only time this happened. Her mother has threatened to take their lives, that she wasn't going to die alone.
Correct.
Isn't that true?
Correct.
And this has happened on several occasions.
Yes.
And have the counselors been able to deal with this with Scarlett? Have they been working on this?
Yes, she is addressing this in therapy right now.
In your opinion, what effect, though, has this had on Scarlett?
I mean, if she is replaying these scenarios and has told multiple people, she's reliving it. It's been very traumatic on her.
Okay. And in regards to the incident where her mother allegedly attempted to drown her, has she also expressed that to numerous individuals?
Yes, I believe that's something that she has told the other previous caseworker and other family members.
Has she also told her counselor and teacher at her previous school in Kyle?
I'm not sure on that.
Okay. Is it your understanding that Scarlett thinks this is just normal behavior? This is how a parent acts.
Yes.
And she minimizes what her mother has done to her by saying, my mother's just a little crazy.
Yes.
And how important is it for Scarlett to understand that this is not normal behavior?
I mean, it's very important for her to know that that's not normal.
And since she's been placed in the home of Mr. Roscoe, has she thrived?
Yes, she has.
Has she been able to understand what a real family should be like?
Yes.
Has she indicated by her own words that she did not want to speak to her mother because of the feelings that she had when she had Zoom calls with her mother.
Yes.
And prior to you becoming the caseworker, her mother had an opportunity to actually have physical visits as well when she was moved to Houston with the grandmother, correct?
Yes.
And as far as you know, did she exercise those visitations?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay. And so again, then Scarlett was placed in New York. And did you receive since you got the case, she has not had contact with Scarlett, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so in your opinion, has the department provided all the necessary services in an attempt to reunify these children with Miss Benz?
Yes.
Do you think there was anything else that you could have provided to her in an attempt to salvage this family?
No, I don't.
And based on her previous criminal history of assaults, of child endangerment, and continued issues with her mental health breakdowns, do you feel that these children would be in danger if they were returned to her?
Yes, I do.
And even in supervised visitation, she has had difficulty maintaining her composure, correct?
Yes, with Scarlett. Yes.
And in regards to her visits, how old is Paisley?
Paisley, she's a year old.
Okay. And she can't defend herself, correct?
Correct.
She can't make a phone call if something was going on.
Correct.
She can't go to a neighbor if something happened.
Correct.
And as far as you know with Scarlett, she did go to a neighbor in regards to the drowning incident, correct?
Yes.
And there's police reports that authenticate that, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever have the opportunity to discuss with her the choking incident or see any documentation about that?
With Scarlett?
Yes, with Scarlett.
No, I haven't.
Okay. And in regards to Scarlett's mental health issues because of this relationship with her mother, how would you describe her ability to focus and to handle situations?
It's been explained, and I've observed Scarlett does not have a good attention span. She kind of is all over the place at times. I know that specifically with the trauma of what she's remembered, that's something that she's addressing in therapy.
And these are significant incidents. They're not just minor, either verbal abuse or minor incidents. These are pretty significant, correct?
Yes.
These are life-threatening situations.
Yes.
For Scarlett.
Yes.
Obviously, Paisley cannot speak, so she can't even tell us what has happened to her, correct?
Correct.
And initially, did you see paperwork where there was a concern that Paisley might have some kind of prior injury to her shoulder or to her arm because she was having difficulty in some of the visits or difficulty raising her arm?
Yes.
And so there was a skeletal survey done on her, correct?
Yes.
And as far as you know, she's doing better?
Yes, she is.
She's working through it?
Yes.
But there was no injuries indicated?
No, there weren't.
In your viewing of the case, was there a concern about Mrs. Benz's postpartum depression or her activities while she was pregnant that caused concern?
Yes.
And has Ms. Benz indicated herself that she suffers from extreme postpartum depression?
Yes, I believe that is in her evaluations.
In regards to some of the incidents while Ms. Benz was pregnant that have been documented, did she in fact threaten to kill herself and her unborn child on more than one occasion?
Yes.
And even though she was emergency detained on at least one, maybe two occasions prior to the removal, she has continued to be erratic since the removal.
Yes.
And was there a incident involving Mr. Bentz where Grace Bentz broke out the window of his car?
Yes.
And that was since this case started, correct?
Yes.
Do you know how far into the case we were when this happened?
I do not know.
Okay. But during the case, also, Mr. Bentz's house was ransacked and items were taken and walls were destroyed. And this allegedly was Miss Bentz as well.
Objection, Your Honor. Mischaracterization is the house being Miles Bentz's house.
But that's not a mischaracterization, Your Honor, because the house is Mr. Bentz's, the land is Miss Bentz's, is my understanding.
They both own the house, Your Honor. That's already been.
Hasn't been established here, Your Honor.
Well,
It's the house Mr. Bentz resides in, if that helps clarify it.
then let's just clarify it on the record is we're talking about the house that Mr. Bentz lives in. Correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
Ms. Hernandez, were you aware of the damage to the house in Divine?
Yes.
And were there police reports that indicated that the property was stolen and things were damaged?
Yes.
And again, this was during this case.
Correct.
So the goal is always reunification, but this case has had a number of obstacles, correct?
Yes.
And Ms. Bentz has failed to address her serious mental health issues, correct?
Yes.
And she hasn't even provided the department along with any documentation to show that she's actually stable and doing well.
Correct. I have not received her prescriptions.
And you have asked for those, correct?
I believe during the last meeting with the previous worker that was requested.
Okay. But you mentioned that you had only seen Ms. Bentz on one occasion, and that was last week, correct?
Yes.
But you've been the worker since June.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you were not allowed to meet with her unless her attorney was present, correct?
Yes.
And so that became an obstacle in this case, correct?
Yes.
Isn't it important for the worker that's involved to be able to meet one-on-one with each parent to determine if they're able to meet the needs of their children?
Yes.
And so you really haven't been able to make an assessment of Ms. Bentz because you were not allowed to meet with her one-on-one.
Correct. The visit that I had scheduled with her, it was canceled by her attorney's office.
And so the only time you met last week, that wasn't just you and her. I was present, Casa was present,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado and Mr. Wong, correct?
Yes.
So again, the goal is always reunification. Can you please detail for the court why it's not appropriate at this time for any type of reunification with Miss Grace Bentz?
Yes, she has not completed her service plan. She hasn't been able to show the department that she has made changes to her behaviors to be able to be protective of the girls.
And again, these are the situations are pretty volatile, correct?
Yes.
And these children cannot protect themselves against someone who hasn't dealt with their own demons.
Correct.
In regards to Mr. Roscoe, do you feel that he should be the sole managing conservator of Scarlett and there not be any rights given to Miss Bentz?
Yes.
And do you feel Mr. Roscoe can meet all of her needs?
Yes.
And that he has done everything in his power to make that adjustment and provide for Scarlett since she has been placed in his home since March?
Yes.
So do you have any concerns at this time regarding Mr. Roscoe?
No, I don't.
And his case was already staffed for reunification. He's already has reunification with his daughter.
Yes, he does.
Do you feel that there's anything that can be done to facilitate a relationship with Ms. Bentz at this point in the case?
No, I don't.
Do you think that every effort has been done by Mr. Roscoe as well to try to facilitate a relationship
Yes.
with Ms. Bentz?
Yes.
And prior to you becoming the worker, there were opportunities that Mr. Roscoe tried to get Scarlett to talk to her mother, correct?
Yes.
And she refused to talk to her on more than one occasion prior to us stopping the visitation.
Correct.
And on several occasions, Ms. Bentz had to be redirected because her conversations were inappropriate.
Yes.
And did you have an opportunity to review those notes when you became the caseworker?
Yes.
And besides the incidents of tell me you love me over and over, and were there any other incidents that you can remember at this time and want to make the court aware of?
No, not at this time.
Okay. And as far as Mr. Bentz, do you feel that he has worked through the issues that brought his child into care?
Yes, I do.
And do you feel that the professionals that he sees have addressed the serious concerns about the domestic violence with him and Ms. Bentz?
Yes.
And to be fair, it wasn't one-sided. It was both Mr. Bentz and Mrs. Bentz, correct?
Correct.
But he was very forthcoming with all of his providers, correct?
Yes.
He shared his role in the disputes and has worked through and tried to determine what he will need to do to provide a safe and stable home for his daughter.
Yes.
And does he have the support from, let me go back. What Mr. Roscoe has the support of his family,
Yes, he does.
and he has a family in Texas as well.
Yes.
And it's really important for Scarlett to have contact with her half siblings, correct?
Correct.
And are you aware, or has it been brought to your attention that Mr. Roscoe is more than willing to keep that contact with the half siblings?
Yes.
And in fact, they had an opportunity to visit with Mr. Roscoe and Scarlett over the summer.
Yes, they did.
And did you have any negative feedback about that?
No.
Okay. And then Mr. Bentz, what is his support system?
His support system is his family, the firing squad that he works with, and also Paisley's current placement.
And Paisley's current placement is who?
It's Emily Venegas.
And that is in fact Mr. Bentz's ex-wife, correct?
Yes.
And do you feel that situation with Paisley being in that home has been helpful for Mr. Bentz to be able to get on the right track to learn what issues he needed to deal with as well?
Yes.
Okay. And in regards to, I want to go back to Ms. Bentz's psychological evaluation. There's a scale on the back of the psychological evaluation, a validity scale. Do you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
And so on the lying score, she had a 10, which says it meets or exceeds the cutoff for lying on the validity scale, correct?
Yes.
On the response distortion index, it says on faking good, it said 10, lie, that she met the index of lying on faking that everything was good. Yes?
Yes.
Is that what it says? So Miss Bentz has been able to, I guess, fake it for a while. Correct, Ms. Hernandez?
Yes, that is what Yes.
But in your opinion today, has she learned anything throughout the last, 10 years of involvement with CPS?
No, ma'am.
And there has been at least 8 referrals involving her and her children based on the removal affidavit?
Yes.
And the majority of those referrals were serious incidents of mental health issues, domestic violence, and violence in itself,
Yes.
and physical abuse. Do you think there's any opportunity for Ms. Bentz to be appointed possessory conservator or even a non-possessory conservator in this case with regards to these 2 children?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm asking if you think that, let me rephrase. You feel that termination is in the best interest, correct?
Yes.
So in your opinion, there is not an opportunity based on Ms. Bentz's history and the services that have been provided to her where she could actually even be a possessory conservator having visitation, or even a non-possessory where she doesn't have visitation because she hasn't even learned how to control her violence or work on her mental health.
Correct.
I know that was a long question. I'm sorry. Got carried away with that. And so you're asking today for the court to terminate her rights on both children and appoint the fathers as the managing conservators. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, and in reference to Mr. Bentz, it would be a reunification staffing based on that.
Okay. And do you feel that the fathers in this case have shown that they can provide a safe and stable home for these children?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. McKeskill, we've had Ms. Shope come back. And so I don't know if we want to ask Ms. Hernandez more questions and finish that out. We've got about 30 minutes left today.
Judge, I think that finishing with Ms. Hernandez would probably be the prudent thing to do, just so we're not interrupting her testimony and then having to come back to it like we would have to do with Ms. Shuffs.
I think that's fine, and I agree with you. So do you have redirect?
I don't, Judge.
All right. Any recross for Ms. Hernandez by any party?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Wong.
Ms. Hernandez, you mentioned that Grace had not provided you with any prescription information. Can you confirm you did not request that of her? Is that correct?
I did not know. Last week was my initial meeting with her.
Had you requested that prior to the meeting last week?
I had
Grace?
not.
Sorry, so you had not, correct?
No, I had not.
And I believe there was a meeting scheduled in July that had to be rescheduled with you. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I know you mentioned that it was because my office called you, but what was the reason? Were you given a reason for why that meeting was canceled?
I was told that she had a minor medical emergency.
And do you know if that was related to her current pregnancy?
I don't know. I wasn't given any information.
Okay. And then you also mentioned that there was erratic behavior between Miles and Grace, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, that's not what you testified to.
Sustained.
Was there, in your opinion, erratic behavior amongst Grace and Miles Benz?
I'm sorry. So for the removal or?
After the removal, sorry.
Yes, there was erratic behavior by Ms. Bentz.
Was there not also continued violence between caused by Miles as well?
Objection asked and answered in his direct. On his cross.
Sustained.
You mentioned that, or it was brought up in your testimony that Joe had a gun at the house visit. Was that something you actually verified and confirmed and you saw, or is that just something Ms. Pearsall alleges?
That was something that I, myself, Casa, and Miss Fuller observed.
Okay, so you observed him with a gun. What type of gun was it?
I'm not sure.
Can you describe it? Was it a pistol? Was it a rifle?
Objection
Shotgun?
asked and answered.
No, I haven't heard that yet. Overruled.
I don't know what type of gun it was.
Can he
But
ask you to describe it? Can you describe it?
No, I couldn't describe it.
Could it have been a flashlight?
I'm not sure.
But so how did you know that it was a gun?
I don't know that for a fact that it was a gun.
And did you feel that Mr. Mercado was threatening in any way?
No,
When you were in the home, was it something where you asked to, search the house, or were there any firearms in the residence?
not that I observed.
Okay. Did you ask if there were any firearms present?
No, I didn't.
And during the visit, was Joe evasive in any of your questions with him?
No,
Did he provide answers to the questions that you were asking?
I did not ask Mr. Mercado questions during my visit.
Was there anything Mr. Mercado needed to provide to CPS?
No, I did not ask for anything at that visit.
And when you visited the residence, can you describe the residence? How many rooms were there?
Yes, it was 3 bedrooms.
And what was the arrangement for the bedrooms?
You're not going to object this outside the scope.
Sustained.
And a less restrictive option than termination would be Grace as a possessor conservator, correct?
Objection asked and answered and outside the scope.
Sustained.
What other services is Grace required to complete?
Objection asked and answered.
And Your Honor, we're at the termination trial, and extra services, that's irrelevant at this point.
Sustained.
You mentioned that Grace was bipolar. Would it be an accurate statement that from what you were reviewing, it was both Grace and Miles recognized they were bipolar?
Objection, Your Honor. It's an out of court statement.
What was your objection?
It's hearsay. It's an out of court statement. He's talking about something that Grace said. And so it's one thing when she admits things about herself. It's something different.
I don't agree with you. If it's an out of court statement, it's not hearsay if it's a party opponent statement. It doesn't matter what the intention is. It's a party opponent statement, so it's not hearsay. Overruled.
Well, Your Honor, it's hearsay because it's from a document that's not in evidence.
But it's a statement of a party opponent.
in the document that hasn't been admitted into evidence.
Well, he can rephrase his question and ask if she said it. I mean,
Correct. Did Miles Bentz say that he was also bipolar?
In the removal affidavit, it states bipolar issues.
And also in the psychological evaluations, they both admitted.
Yes, I believe. Yes, information from the affidavit was in the psychologicals.
And sorry, my screen closed. You mentioned an instance where Grace threatened to kill her unborn child. What were the circumstances with that communication?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I'm not.
Do you know what the circumstances were when
No,
Grace said that she threatened to kill her unborn child?
No, I don't.
And so you don't know what the surrounding, what was surrounding that statement, what was going on, correct?
No.
I'll pass.
any other recross?
Yes, Your Honor, just one question.
Go ahead.
Ms. Hernandez, you testified that part of Mr. Ben's large support system was his firing squad. I just want to clarify that's because he's a fireman who works for the fire department.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just wanted to clear what a firing squad means. No other questions.
I heard that too, and I think it's appropriate that you cleared it up for the record because it did come off a little weird. What were you going to say, Ms. Fuller?
I had a couple questions, but I know Mr. Saldivar's next. Sorry.
Okay.
No further questions, Judge.
Well, you don't have to wait, Ms. Fuller. It's all you.
So, Ms. Hernandez, in regards to the incident in the home last week, did Ms. Bentz indicate to all of us that Mr. Mercado lived in the home with her?
Yes. Yes.
But that's not the information we're being provided now? Have you been given other information at this point?
No.
And in regards to the gun incident, did Mr. Mercado have a gun strap holster on him?
Yes.
And whatever was inside that holster, you couldn't tell exactly what type of gun, correct?
Correct.
But it wasn't a flashlight holster, was it?
No.
I mean, he had it on his shoulder, down his side, correct?
Yes.
And are you aware that Miss Bentz has a protective order against her where she's not allowed to be around firearms, correct?
I was not aware of that, no.
Okay, so are you aware that there is a protective order
Yes.
against her? Okay. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Any other questions for Ms. Hernandez?
No, Your Honor.
All right. She's going to remain in the hearing, correct?
Yes, Judge. She is the representative of the department.
Okay. We got 18 minutes left. Do you want to continue with Ms. Show or?
Judge, I know that you had some other issues you wanted to discuss. So if we have a drop dead time of 4:15, I would just ask maybe we pick Ms. Show's testimony up at our next hearing date. That way we have time to flesh out those other issues.
Okay. Well, that next hearing date is going to be September 16th at 9:30, and it'll be by Zoom, the Monday docket.
Your Honor, can I ask that we start at 10? I'm available all day. I just have one conflict at 9:30.
You always do. Yes, we can start at 10. That's fine.
And are we going all day?
No.
Oh.
We don't need all day. I don't see how another full day of testimony is going to behoove any of us in this particular case. I want to make sure that you all have your opportunity to make the record as complete as you want it to be. But there's been quite a bit of evidence that came in today that is directly relevant to the issue at hand. And I'm going to give you all more time, but I don't think we need another 8 hours on this. Does anybody want to explain to me why we might need 8 hours?
Because there's numerous attorneys, unfortunately, on this case, so that I would think that it would take a while, but.
And Your Honor,
Well, I
this is still a
understand there's
termination
numerous
case involving
attorneys, but
my client.
I'm
She needs
sorry?
this is obviously a termination case involving my client's rights, and she wants to be able to have all of her evidence be able to be presented.
Well, what are you going to present? Give me an idea of what witnesses we still need to call and what evidence still needs to be presented in this case.
Well, she obviously has to testify. She needs to be able to explain her situation, Your Honor. We still have Mr. Bentz and Mr. Roscoe, and then, depending on what other circumstances, arise, from today's hearing, there may be others, but, at a minimum, Ms. Bentz is going to take a decent chunk of time.
Well, and I understand that we have other parents involved. I just want to make sure everybody understands that if we're getting into duplicitous information that's just coming from another person, but it's the same information, we're not going to do that all day long. So be very particular about what evidence you think the court still needs to hear. There's been a lot today that I think we probably could have been more efficient with. So keep that in mind. We will have the day, but if I feel like we're getting to a point where we're just going in circles or I'm hearing the same thing over and over and over again, I'm going to let you know. What else do we need to talk about?
Your Honor, if we could get a witness list, or if there's any other exhibits, I'd like to have them ahead of time.
I think that's appropriate. So I'm going to go ahead and make that order. It's August 27th. We're coming back on September the 16th. So look at a calendar. We have a holiday within this period. So I understand that's going to cut down on some time here. But I think having a witness list, exchanging witness lists for anybody else that you think might be called by September the 4th. If you have anything else, like today we had an instance with, we're looking at reports. We want to make sure that everybody had a copy of it. Let's get all that done before the 4th. Let's not spend time on Monday the 16th reading things that we could read in anticipation of trial. So if any of you have anything else that you think is going to potentially come up like that, then let's exchange that information. Now, that being said, we've already commenced trial, so the rules of civil procedure as far as exhibits and things, that stands. So you can't bring in new exhibits or anything that you didn't already list for the parties prior to the trial setting. I'm just talking about recorded recollection, things of that nature. Anything else?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Well, thank you all for your time and your service. I know it's kind of been a long day and we've got another long day to go, but I appreciate your professionalism and your advocacy. I'll see you September 16th at 10. And if nothing further, all parties are excused. Mr. Wong, it's my understanding your client is not going to be here today.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Anybody else missing someone that you expected to be here?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Then Ms. Wolf, are you ready? Okay. With that, Mr. McKesko, would you please begin the announcement? Mr. McKesko, I think you were muted.
I was, Judge. Drake McKeska, attorney for the department. Ms. Hernandez.
Kimberly Hernandez, permanency specialist with Belong.
Christy Knott, permanency supervisor with Belong. Catherine Shelf, Permanency Supervisor with Belong. Erica?
Yes, hi. My name is Erica Yaku. I'm a protege observing.
Richard Sullivan, attorney for Mr. Roscoe. Mr. Roscoe, will you unmute and announce, please?
Daniel Rasco, father, Scarlett.
Alani Pearsall, attorney for Miles Benz. Mr. Benz, will you introduce yourself?
Miles Benz, Paisley's father.
Brandon Wong, attorney for Grace Benz.
Deborah Fuller, attorney for the attorney and guardian ad litem for the children, Your Honor, ready.
Jill Roden, Tri-County CASA.
Anyone who's not an attorney or would be giving testimony, please raise your right hand. Put your hands down. We are here today to recommence trial that we commenced initially on August the 27th. We heard quite a bit of testimony that day, entered several exhibits, and the court recessed and reset for today. My understanding is that in the time that has elapsed since then, Ms. Bentz has executed a relinquishment. Is that correct, Mr. Wong?
Correct, Your Honor.
And you received it, and all the parties have seen it, Mr. McKeska?
Yes, Judge, it was filed on September 11th, 2024.
Okay. Have the parties been able to discuss all ramifications of the final order to this point?
Yes, Judge, I think there's still some maybe slight issues with regard to Mr. Bentz that may need to be worked out. But I believe other than that, everything else is squared away.
All right. So what would be the plan today to prove up the relinquishment and then work on some other things? Do you all need to confer, or how do you want to proceed?
Really, I mean, I guess it really depends on how you want to handle it, Judge. I don't want to necessarily keep everyone here unnecessarily. But I know that, Ms. Pearsall, Ms. Fuller, and I have been kind of exchanging messages and talking this morning. So there's just an issue with regard to Mr. Bentz's visitation post final order that need to be worked out. So if you want us to see if we can iron that out quickly, then we could just proceed and wrap everything up.
Anybody else have a problem with that plan?
No, Your Honor.
I mean, it might be more effective just to handle the relinquishment and then be able to release Mr. Roscoe and Mr. Saldivar. But
And that works too, Judge.
That's fine.
Okay. So then you want to prove it up, release them out of the case, and then confer about Mr. Bentz.
That work, Judge. That way we can release all the other unnecessary parties.
Okay. I think that's a good use of time as well. All right. Then if you would, you're going to have Ms. Shope testify as to the relinquishment?
Judge, I would like to recall Ms. Hernandez. I know that we wrapped up her testimony previously, but given the change in circumstances, I believe should be the appropriate witness.
Yeah, and that's my mistake. It would be Ms. Hernandez. So you may proceed. We're still going to call this a recommencement of trial, obviously, but you may recall Ms. Hernandez, and then I'll allow the parties to cross as necessary. So you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Hernandez, can you please state your name for the record?
Kimberly Hernandez.
And how are you currently employed?
I'm a permanency specialist with SJRC Belong.
Okay. And Judge, would you enable the share screen function, please?
Yes, I will.
Mr. Hernandez, can you see the document pulled up on my screen that's been pre-marked as Petitioner's Exhibit number 8?
Yes.
And can you please identify that document for me?
It's an affidavit of voluntary relinquishment of parental rights.
Okay, and who is the relinquishment for?
Grace Benz.
Okay. I'm gonna scroll down. Did Miss Bentz execute this relinquishment in front of 2 witnesses?
Yes.
Did she also execute it in front of a notary for the state of Texas?
Yes.
Okay. And at the time she executed this affidavit, was she represented by Mr. Wong?
Yes.
And did Miss Bentz have the opportunity to review this affidavit with Mr. Wong?
Yes.
And do you believe that Miss Bentz's questions regarding the relinquishment were answered by Mr. Wong?
Yes.
And do you think that Miss Bentz, or do you believe that Ms. Bentz fully understood the legal ramifications for executing this document?
Yes.
Did the department promise Ms. Bentz anything in exchange for the relinquishment?
No.
Did the department threaten Ms. Bentz in any way, shape, or form in exchange for the relinquishment?
No.
Is it your understanding that Ms. Bentz executed this relinquishment freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Okay, and that she did so believing is in the best interest of her children?
Yes.
Okay, at the bottom or on the verification page, there's a section labeled consent to designate as managing conservator. You are the agent of the department currently, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and are you giving your consent to name the department as the managing conservator of at least one of the children?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, I'd like to introduce petitioner's 8.
Any objection?
No objection.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
No objections.
Petitioner's 8 is admitted.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, with that, I'll pass. I believe that I got best interest testimony in our previous setting.
Mr. Wong, any questions for Ms. Hernandez?
No questions.
Mr. Saldivar?
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Pearsall?
I believe you testified trial day 1 that you were waiting to staff a case to see if you could start working a reunification with Mr. Bentz.
Yes, ma'am.
And has that staffing happened?
Yes, it has.
And has that been approved?
Yes, it was approved for overnight visits to begin.
Okay. And has Mr. Bentz started unsupervised overnight visits?
Yes, he's had one.
Okay. And can you tell us the date and like how long that visit was?
Yes, it was last weekend. That was the Sunday to Monday from 8 a.m. to 8 a.m.
And did that visit go well?
Yes, it did.
No concerns?
No, ma'am.
And so is it the department's plan to continue unsupervised visits with Mr. Bentz at this time and his child?
Yes.
Now the questions.
Bowler?
Mr. Hernandez, are you asking the court to terminate Ms. Rice based solely on her affidavit of relinquishment?
Yes.
And you feel that's in the best interest of the children?
Yes, ma'am.
And in regards to Mr. Roscoe, he will be named permanent managing conservator of Scarlett, correct?
Correct.
And in regards to Paisley, the department at this time is asking to be named permanent managing conservator.
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
Redirect?
No, Judge.
Any other questions for Ms. Hernandez as it pertains to the relinquishment?
No, Your Honor.
No.
All right. So my understanding is at this time, we want to take up, I heard the testimony that Mr. Roscoe, department intends for Mr. Roscoe to be permanent managing conservator. Do you want to put on any evidence of that before we move on to the next step?
No, Judge. I mean, I guess just make argument with regard to the relief the department's requesting regarding Scarlett.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that.
So, Judge, because of the unique circumstances, I am asking the court to at least consider an oral motion to sever the cases today. I believe that we're going to need 2 separate final orders with regard to each individual child. And so if the court does grant the motion to sever, then I'm requesting the court enter an order with regard to Scarlett that will terminate the mother's rights based solely off the relinquishment that was proved up today. I find that the termination of that parent-child relationship is in Scarlett's best interest. And also make the necessary findings. The department made reasonable efforts to return the child home, but despite those reasonable efforts, the continuing danger still exists. I believe the testimony that was elicited on day 1 of the trial establishes each and every one of those requests by clear and convincing evidence. We're asking that Mr. Roscoe be named as the sole managing conservator of Scarlett, and that the court dismiss the department as the temporary managing conservator today, and then also dismiss the respective appointed attorneys from their appointments with regard to Scarlett.
Okay. Mr. Wong, any response as it pertains to Scarlett?
No, Your Honor, that's correct.
Mr. Saldivar?
Judge, we're in agreement. My client has his child. He wants to be severed out of this case and be sole managing conservator of this child. Judge, I think she's been there and he'll meet all her needs. And we are in agreement with that request, Judge.
Ms. Pearsall, do you have any argument on this?
Your Honor, I agree that the cases should be severed. Outside of that, I don't have any objections to any of the requests.
Ms. Fuller?
Your Honor, I am in agreement and feel like it's in Scarlett's best interest for the mother's rights to be terminated and Mr. Roscoe to be appointed the permanent managing conservator. He has done an excellent job with Scarlett. He has the patience of a saint, to be honest, and he has really worked hard with her to get her so she could have a stable lifestyle. Very proud of, excuse me, very proud of Mr. Roscoe. And I know that Scarlett will thrive in his home up there in New York. I had an opportunity to meet with them in New York, and he's a very, very good father. And I'm glad to see this case end this way so they can move forward.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ms. Roden?
House is in agreement with what Ms. Fuller shared. We believe it's in Scarlett's best interest to remain with Mr. Roscoe. Like she said, I mean, he's been proactive in setting up therapies, working with the school to get her the interventions that she needs. And every month when I meet with her on FaceTime, I've seen just an improvement in her ability to stay focused and the way that she reacts to Mr. Roscoe's redirection during those calls sometimes to her behavior. I mean, he's really shown that he's committed to this and is making a good impact on Scarlett. So we're just happy to see her have the permanency and stability she deserves.
Thank you. Perhaps I missed it. Was there an actual motion to sever file, or is this an oral motion?
It's an oral motion, Judge. I don't believe I've actually filed one.
I didn't think so either. And I'm assuming based on the arguments, there's no objection to lack of prior notice on the oral motion to sever.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, then the court will grant the department's request to sever these cases. The court will sever out the case as to Scarlett. Can assign, I'm not sure, I can't remember how they do it in Medina County, but we'll assign a new cause number for Scarlett and Paisley so that we can differentiate between the two cases. But as to Scarlett, the court finds that all parties entitled to citation and notice were duly cited and served. The trial commenced August 27th, and as to Scarlett is being finalized today, September the 16th. Court finds that it has jurisdiction over the subject matter and the parties. This is the court of continuing exclusive jurisdiction. No other court has, or there's been no evidence presented that any other court has continuing exclusive jurisdiction over this child. The court finds that based on the evidence throughout the trial record that the department has proved by clear and convincing evidence that the mother, Grace Bentz, pursuant to chapter 161.001B1K, did on or before this suit was filed execute a voluntary affidavit of relinquishment. Court finds that it's in the best interest of the child to terminate her rights based solely on that relinquishment. Court makes a finding that the Department of Family Protective Services / Belong made reasonable efforts to return the child to Grace Bentz throughout the course of this case. Court finds that there's considerable evidence in the record of multiple attempts that the agencies made to work with the mother, provide her with a service plan, provide her with resources and referrals, provide her with visitation, and to try to return the child home and reunify, but there was a continuing danger that continuing danger existed because the mother's issues that brought the children into care, despite all of those efforts, persisted. And it was not in the best interest of the children to return to her. It was, in fact, in the best interest of the children and remains in the best interest of the children for her rights to be terminated pursuant to 161.001B1K. Court finds it's in the best interest of the child for father Mr. Daniel Rasco to be named as the sole managing conservator of the child, Grace Bence, and have all the rights and duties pursuant to the family code. Court finds that it's in the best interest of the child to dismiss the Department of Family and Protective Services / belong as the temporary managing conservator. Court also finds it's in the best interest of the child as to Scarlett's case to dismiss the attorneys who represent the parents or the child in their respective appointments as to Scarlett only. Court finds that it's also well, I don't think Casa is appointed as a guardian ad litem. It's the attorney. It's in the best interest of this to dismiss the guardian ad litem for the child as well. Are those all the orders that you need us to Scarlett, Mr. McKeska?
Judge, I just need you to, I guess, correct something for the record. Prior to the commencement of the trial on the 27th, you did order a transfer and consolidation of the Harris County order for Scarlett into this case. And so I just want to make sure that that's clear on the record.
Yeah, and that's correct. That case was consolidated into this case. And so as of now, this is the only court of continuing exclusive jurisdiction. Is that sufficient for you?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Rasco, I want to echo what I've heard some of the other folks say in this case. I'm super proud of you. You came in, you stepped in, and you got to work immediately. You were able to get reunified with your child through, channels that put her in another state, which is no easy feat. And through that all, as Ms. Fuller said, you're very patient. You've been very patient with the child. And as Ms. Roden said as well, everything is going very well. So I want to give you a round of applause and tell you congratulations. But also, I'm very happy for Scarlett because I think that this is not only a long time coming, but she needed you and you showed up in every way. So good on you. I'm proud of you. Any objections to releasing the attorneys here as to Scarlett's case?
No, Your Honor.
objection.
I guess that would just be Mr. Saldivar at this time, would it not?
Yes, Judge.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Saldivar, thank you for your time and your service. I'll find that you have diligently completed and satisfied all of your duties in this case and send me a bill.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. You are excused. Mr. Rasco, you're excused. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Judge, I think if you since you terminated mom, we can release Mr. Wong as well.
Well, we're only handling Scarlett's case at this time, correct?
Judge, I mean, I would have no objection to the court making the specific findings regarding termination as to the mother and then releasing Mr. Wong as well. I don't see that as an issue.
I don't either. I'm fine with that. Okay. Mr. Wong, you okay with that?
That's fine, Judge. Just confirming termination for Paisley's on the same grounds as for Scarlett.
Correct. Just for the record's sake, court will find that through the termination or through the relinquishment that Ms. Bence executed, even though the cases were severed, that does also impute to Paisley's case as well. The department proved by clear and convincing evidence that as to Paisley as well, termination of the mother's rights under 161.001B1K is in the best interest of the child, and that the same findings and orders as to the reasonable efforts made and the continuing danger also exist in Paisley's case. So I will terminate her rights as to that child under the same grounds and same findings. I'm going to hold off on making any further orders as to Paisley, considering the parties still need to work some things out as to Mr. Bence. But I think that covers everything as to Miss Bence in toto here, and that Mr. Wong can be released. Does anybody have any objection?
No, Judge.
Okay.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Wong, thank you for your time and your service in this case. Appreciate you being here today. I'm glad you were able to all work something out. And if you don't have anything further, you are excused.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Okay, do you all want a breakout room to talk about anything else?
Yes, please.
Yes,
Okay.
I think we can work it out fairly quickly, yeah.
Yeah, I think just Deborah and Drake and me, Your Honor.
Well, and CASA too, they have an opinion.
Okay. I've got Ms. Pearsall, Ms. Fuller, Mr. McCaska, Ms. Roden. Anything, anybody else needed in there?
No, Judge.
No.
Oh, okay, that room is open. I'll check on you in 5-10 minutes. Ms. Wolf will be in a brief recess. What have the parties established?
So, Judge, with regards to the rest of the relief requested, and by agreement of the remaining parties, we are asking for the department to be named as the sole managing conservator of Paisley, for Mr. Bentz to be named as a possessory conservator. We're asking the court to maintain her current placement, and placement is working on becoming licensed. And once placement has become licensed and the requisite time period has elapsed for PCA benefits, we'll be filing a petition to modify in order to transfer sole managing conservatorship to Ms. Venegas with the PCA benefits. And then with regard to medical support, child support, we're asking for it not to enter any sort of medical support, child support at this time. And then finally, with regard to possession and access, absence an agreement of the parties and following the next two overnight visits between Mr. Bentz and Paisley, we're asking the court to grant Mr. Bentz an expanded standard possession order where he will be picking the child up from her daycare at the beginning periods of his possession and then returning her to Miss Venegas's home at 6 p.m. On the last day of his period of possession and access.
Are those all the terms?
Yes, sir.
What's your understanding of the agreement, Ms. Pearsall?
Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Bentz, can you unmute and tell the court that you're in agreement with those, please?
I'm sorry, explain what?
Is this your agreement that you made?
It's some of the agreement Emily and I have been working out, yes.
Okay. Is this the agreement that you want the court to approve?
To be honest with you, I would like to be Paisley's primary parent, but I have no problem with the scheduling with Emily or anything like that. I feel like we're good at co-parenting, but I would like to be Paisley's primary parent.
Okay, you understand that the agreement that was just read into the record does not make you the primary parent?
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, so what I'm asking you is, are you asking the court to approve the agreement as it is, despite what you wish would happen, or are you telling the court that you don't agree to this?
No, I do not agree to it.
So you don't want me to enter this agreement?
No, sir.
Okay, well, it looks like we have a problem then.
Judge, what I'd ask then is if, because we've already taken care of the other parties, if we would just recess trial at this point, give us another reset date and send us back to mediation so we can work out these issues, or try to work out these issues.
I think that would be appropriate because it sounds like Mr. Bentz is needing some counsel, and I don't know that forcing that to happen this morning and then pigeonholing an agreement would be the best thing to do. We've got plenty of time. Our 90 days started August 27th, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Miss Greenlee, what do we have? I know, well, let me preface it with this. We don't have anything left in September. October is going to be sparse. So what's the closest thing we have in October, Miss Greenlee? And we're going to probably need what, if it goes to contested, 3 hours?
I'm sure. I think that would be an overestimation, but that would put us on the safe side.
Okay.
I agree with Mr. McCaska. I don't think it'll take that long.
Okay.
But better safe than sorry.
Well, then let's look for something 3 hours in October if we have it, Miss Greenlee.
The only dates we have, and let me double check on that conflict docket to see if there's anything set that day. The only two dates that we have are the 10th and the 28th. Now,
I'm good the 10th.
we do. Let me finish, please. We do have the 18th. We have one hearing on the docket, so we could start this one at 10 if you needed to. So those are the three dates that we have.
Okay, on the 18th, I can start at 10:30 and go as long as necessary. And on the 28th, I can start at 10 and go as long as necessary. I'm already in all the trial on the 10th.
Everybody else available on the 18th?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do the 18th. What time did you say?
10:30. I should be done with all my hearings.
What time's the conflict docket over, Miss Greenlee?
10 o'clock. It's a FAFO case at 9:30, so it'd be done at 10.
Okay. All right, then I'm going to recess trial to resume October 18th, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes,
At
sir.
10:30. October 18th, 2024 at 10:30. This is the court's order to appear. I'll memorialize it in writing, but all parties that are here are under notice that I'm making the order in open court that you're ordered to appear to resume final trial October 18th, 2024 at 10:30. Do you want me to order a mediation?
Yes, please.
Mediation's ordered. And I want to make sure it is an attorney mediator, please, for this one. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, that'll be the order of the court. Thank you all for your time and your service. All parties are excused. Ms. Wolf, thank you for being here today. It was good to see you. And I wish you all luck with your mediation. That'll be the docket for today. All parties are excused.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.